We're all about turning a crappy situation into something positive.
$250,000 of credit
I
card debt.
still remember the day when no one turned up.
Throw it in the garbage and start from scratch.
I could give myself a chance, so I started something.
I mean, I think that counts as from poop to gold.
Our sponsor for this episode is our 14-day video script challenge.
Yes, we are sponsoring our own show.
Yes, we are. Welcome back, everyone, to From Poop to Gold. I'm Daniel Harmon, Chief Creative Officer at Harmon Brothers, and your host. My guest today is Frederike Migom, right?
Yes.
Did I get that right? Migom. I got the last name right. Awesome. I knew I'd get the first one, but then I started thinking about the second. But anyway,
nervous.
Yeah, I did get nervous. So we're at the Sundance Film Festival, and Frederike has a film that is showing here. Did it already show? It did already show.
It's shown twice, but the official screening is actually only tomorrow.
It's only tomorrow, that's right. The name of it is Binti, and I'm pronouncing that right. Give our listeners a little bit of a background on this film, what it's about. Admittedly, I've seen the trailer, haven't been able to watch the film yet, so why should they get excited about it?
So yes, it's a family film, and it's about a 12-year-old girl, Binti. Binti is Swahili for girl and daughter. And she dreams of being a famous YouTuber. She's very talented, she's very good. She's grown up in Belgium with Congolese origins. And her and her dad are undocumented, so they're threatened with deportation. And she meets this little boy, Elias, who has an animal club. He wants to save the okapi, which is an animal that happens to live only in the Congo.
Okay.
So there's a link, and these kids meet, and his parents are divorced, and Binti decides to try and match her dad to Elias's mom, believing that if they'll fall in love and they'll get married, she can get to stay in the country. And
that's her way to get her documents all.
Exactly. Well, that's her plan. It's
That's her
obviously a
plan.
bit naive, but that's what she's going for.
Yeah. It's dealing with a pretty heavy issue, right? It's doing it in a way that is kind of, well, at least in the trailer, it feels very fun. Like Binti has a lot of personality. She's obviously making these videos and stuff, and so she's having a lot of fun with it and has like a lot of hope for her future and that kind of thing. But
yeah, I mean, I was making a kid film.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was making a family, a kid film, and I wanted it to be, the fun that was The Parent Trap for me in the 90s. But then, I mean, I also make films about things that puzzle me in the world, I guess, things that happen. And I think it's important also for kids to, and for adults for that matter, cinema can really also be a means of learning and, So then I wanted to combine both. That was the goal, and I think that was a difficult balance to find, for sure.
Cool.
But I think we did something, yeah.
Very good. So give us a little bit of your background. How did you come to be a filmmaker?
I wanted to be an actor at first. And honestly, when I look back on it, I think I wanted to be an actor because that's the only thing, when you're a kid, it's the only thing I knew
Yeah, that's filmmaking, right?
Exactly.
Is being an actor.
That's what you see,
You're on
right?
camera.
Yeah.
You don't know about all these other people, dozens of people behind the camera.
So that's what I then went for. I wanted to go, I went to study in New York as soon as I finished high school because that was kind of my dream, I guess. It's funny because in a way, I think Binti and her dream, I mean, there's definitely like a link with how passionate I was when I was a kid and like going straight for this thing. So then I studied acting at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. Stayed there for another year, got kicked out. Well, I had to, my student visa expired, I had to leave. Then went to Paris to study film, mostly because I didn't feel like going home, that felt weird.
Okay.
It was too expensive to study in the States.
It's very expensive in New York.
Yeah, exactly. So I went to Paris, which was also nice.
Which is also
not
expensive.
Complaining, yes.
It's very
Well, it's not as expensive.
Not
No,
as
it makes
expensive as New York,
It's a huge
but it is
difference.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I studied filmmaking there, and then I started working as a producer because that's just, after college you need a job, and that's the job I got. And I was assistant to the producers, did that for a few years, and then I guess when you have creative ambition, you can't be, then it automatically at some point I wanted to make a short film. And then it was actually acting that saved me a little, because producing is so hardcore.
Yeah.
It's really hard to make that move from producing to writing and directing, because you have no time. It's
Right.
such an all-consuming job.
Right.
And then I got a little acting gig that allowed me to pay my bills
Okay.
and gave me time to write on the side.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's actually thanks to that little part that I had in a series at home that I got to make my first short. And as soon as I was shooting that, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do.
This is what I really love.
Yeah. And then I did 3-4 shorts and a first feature.
Very cool. So you're, is it the writing or the directing that you prefer more? Or do you like to do the both? Like take it all the way from the concept to the
I
finished
think
product?
what is great, what makes directing the most beautiful job in the world is that you get to have all these stages.
Yeah.
The writing, I love it because the research, I make films about things that interest me and that puzzle me. And so the research to me is incredibly interesting because I learn.
Yep.
And it comes to life and it's magic. But it's also very difficult and it's also very lonely.
Yeah.
So it's so nice that by the time you feel like you're going completely bananas in your, little desk in your room, you get to be then talking to people, and then you
Interacting,
get to
collaborating, shooting.
Exactly, and then when you're shooting, it's so social.
Yeah.
By the end of the shoot, you're like, oh my God, leave me alone. Then you get to be in the editing room, which then again is like, you
Yeah.
know, and then after that, you get to be social again when the film comes out. So it's this nice mix, and it's just, it's great.
I think she just described exactly why I like directing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very much the way. It's just kind of a little bit of the change of pace for like an ADD kind of mind, for a creative mind of just like, I'm kind of naturally more introverted, but then there's points where if I'm just doing that too much and I'm not actually collaborating with people, then I get a little bit, I like working with people one-on-one. I love that.
Yeah.
It's more like put me in a party and I have to go talk to everyone. That's kind of scary for me,
It's
That's
important, though.
It is important. It is
Yeah.
important in this business, very much so.
But exactly, once you've had enough of that, you can go back to and a lot of people mind feature filmmaking because it's such a long process. They go, oh my God, it takes so long to get the whole thing. But I also kind of like the time to do. There's obviously always times that you start hating your project and then you go through all these phases. But I also like this kind of sitting on that project for so long and it becomes this. It's so big and long and real. I kind of enjoy it, actually.
How long did it take from writing to finished product for Binti?
About 5 years.
About 5 years. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was on again, off again kind of a thing, I'm assuming.
Well, I guess
Or was
it's
that
mostly the
constant?
writing that takes so long.
Yeah.
And of course, the financing always takes
Yeah,
a long
the
time
financing
as well.
takes a while.
But I think it's also because I am a director more than a writer, meaning that writing for me is this long process of,
Yeah.
and then there's a lab, and then there's a coach and another coach, and you go through all these phases. I think that's the longest. But of course, the first 3 years, I did other things. I shot 2 short films in those first 3 years also. Mm-hmm. So of course I don't think you can just do that
For 5 years, yeah, no way.
But the whole process, about 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think that actually went relatively fast.
Yeah, it goes by pretty fast. So you mentioned that there's moments in the project where, like you said, you begin to hate it. There's like a point where, I don't know if you've read the book Steal Like an Artist, but in there they talk about the dark night of the soul. Like it's a moment where everything just feels like this is really bad, before it gets better. And this podcast is called From Poop to Gold. So that's what we talk about a lot is when have you had that crappy situation with Binti that you were able to turn into something positive? What was that?
That's so funny because doesn't that also come from a book, a screenwriting book?
Probably.
The Dark
Night of the Soul.
The Dark Night of the Soul also refers to the worst moment before Act 3, then fixes it all, right?
Yes, it's very much a parallel to
Yeah.
the storytelling.
Blake Snyder's book, yeah. Funny. What was the time that I was hating it?
Yeah.
It's probably the last phase of when you've been sitting on it for 3 years. When you're actually getting close, then there's always this point of like, oh my God. And it's also,
Is this before shooting or in editing?
No, before shooting.
Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah. No, in editing, the editing was a party. The editing was
That's
fun.
awesome.
Yeah, no, the editing was great. No, I think it's, that long period of writing. It's not an easy subject. Immigration is not easy,
Yep.
and a lot has been happening also in these years. And there's definitely been times that I'm like, why did I pick this kind of thing? And I mean, you start questioning and doubting everything, and then there's definitely moments that you're like, nah. But then there's no way back anymore. So
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You're in too deep.
yeah. I mean, not even. I still wouldn't have gone back anymore.
Right.
But
Right. But you get pretty deep there. So describe what that's like in those moments when it gets really dark before it gets better. And then how do you flip it to something that becomes great?
well, there's tears, anxiety. There is running circles in your house, doing like, I mean, it's quite literally that kind of. And then I think you need pep talks and people telling you, get yourself together. I had a friend who would always say that. Feel the fear, do it anyway. Okay. It's a good one.
Yeah. Allow yourself to feel it, but then
The fear is
power
okay.
through.
Yeah. And then you just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So tell us a little bit for someone that's listening and wants to get into film. Tell us a little bit about what do you know now that you wish you would have known maybe, I don't know how long you've been in this business, but that you would have known years ago. Something, what are some tips for getting into film?
I think if you want to make feature films, which is, I guess, a very specific sort of difficult part, stick with it.
Okay.
Like when you are going through those moments of like, oh, it's taking too long and it's so hard, blah, 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 blah. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay.
And also be careful in what you do on the side, because
Okay.
it's so easy to, you have to pay those bills.
Right.
Because this writing process is hard also because you have no money coming in.
Right.
And then you have to do other jobs.
Yeah.
And then they take too much of your space, and then it's really difficult to write still. And that's also, I think, where often the time then flies, and then 10 years have passed and you're still
Yeah.
working on your script. I guess then there's this balance with like how much money do you need, and learn to say no to certain things, and make space for you to make it, to work on that feature, I guess.
Budget the time to work on what your real goal is, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to the day-to-day of I have to pay the bills or I have to do X, Y, or Z, but really make the time to sharpen the saw, develop the skill.
Yeah, because you're
Hone
probably
the craft.
gonna have to have another job at
Yep,
some point.
yep.
I mean,
Most do. In LA, most do.
exactly. Way to go for those who don't, but especially in the beginning.
They're driving Uber, they're waiting tables, they're doing that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But then indeed try to measure out how much do you really, really need, and try to keep as much space for the actual writing process. And surround yourself with good people. Super important. Look for them, talk to them, make friends, because you need the mentors and the coaches, and you need people to read your stuff. Also super important. Don't be like, oh no, it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
Have
Just
people read it.
Get the garbage out there.
Yeah, because as soon as you get response, it's real.
Yeah.
And even if it's bad, it's out there, and then the moments start coming where you don't when there's no way returning.
That's right.
That's actually maybe the most important.
And I agree that even in, like, for example, we run an ad agency, and every time I wait a long time to show my work to somebody else, I always say to myself, man, I wish I would have just got that out of the way.
Because you
and
lose time.
Yeah, you just lose time, and you could be accelerating your path to
Yeah.
getting to where you want to much faster if you do it that way.
Yeah, you lose time and energy also, because often then you know, that time in the screenwriting that you're like going in circles and circles and you just can't make decisions, because that would be good, but that would be good too. And you need other people to, mentors. Find yourself a good mentor.
And I always say, in our company, we use a brain trust, essentially. Just they end up being mentors on the project. And I always say, just embrace embarrassment. You know, just
completely.
It's just totally part of it. You just get to it as fast as you can.
Yeah, and find someone to write with, because I guess a lot of directors aren't per se writers.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, you often have to write yourself, because who's gonna want to write for you? You can't pay them.
Right.
Try to find collaborators.
Yeah, to make your writing much better,
Yeah.
especially if you're weaker in that area. What was one of the most rewarding moments in working on this film, Binti?
The working with the kids, I think. I mean, in the shooting part,
How old were they again?
Binti was actually only 9 when we
Okay,
shot.
yeah.
Which is wild, because she's playing a 12-year-old. Like,
Yeah,
usually you want
it usually goes the
opposite.
reverse. Yep,
I know.
it's amazing.
But she managed.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, but then the responsibility is big. I mean, you know, you sometimes have to remember, she's only 9. Like,
Yeah.
treat her like a 9-year-old.
Yeah,
not like a
rather than
12-year-old.
being like, come on, just get this done.
But to me, it was very important to be very close to them, rather than being the tough director.
Yeah.
I also told my AD, like, you have to be the tough one, because I'm gonna be the nice one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's very smart.
Yeah, because
So that they were comfortable around you, that they wanted to work with
completely,
you, that they
and we
enjoyed
loved
the
each
job.
other.
Yeah.
And they were my little army. I mean
Yep.
that in a gentle way.
Yeah.
Like when we were, you know, doing overtime, or when there was like crises going on,
Yep.
they would be by my side, and they would be like to the first AD, they would go and like, no, we want to do that scene again. We want to do it for Fred. And like those are the moments that you go, you know. And then I think
cast the right ones.
it's so beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so beautiful.
Yep.
And I think the most rewarding in the aftermath of the film is the screenings also for the kids.
Yeah.
We've been to a lot of schools. In Belgium, we've done quite a lot of.
Oh, good.
And it's the response is just amazing, because the kids are so puzzled by, you know, the whole immigration situation, and their questions are so sincere and worrying, and like, why? Like, what is written in those papers? Like, and that's, I mean, that then you realize, oh, okay, that's why we do it, I guess.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time, Frederike.
No,
to
you're
here
welcome.
to
I hope I
talk
didn't
about
talk so
this.
much.
No, you've done great. Where would you like our audience to look you up, you and your film up? Where should they go online?
FrederikeMigom.com.
Okay.
Which is my name. Do I have to spell it?
Yes,
okay.
please.
It's FrederikeMigom.com.
Very good. Very good. Awesome. Thank you
so much for having me.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Can't wait to see the film. And thank you all for listening and joining us. And for those of you that haven't checked out our website, it's harmonbrothers.com. You can see what we do there. Yeah, our way of sharing better stories right now is we make ads. So you can go check us out there. But thank you again to Frederike. And again, the film is Binti, and it's showing here at the Sundance Film Festival. We'll see you on the next one.
We all kind of reach that point where we know we've created something awesome and we want to share it with the world, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that very next step that can oftentimes be really intimidating or really scary, or you just don't know where to go next, right? And the beautiful thing about this 14-day script challenge is you get your hand held from, okay, you have this cool product, now let's go research and find the exact way to present it and message it to the world in a way that resonates and gets people excited and they're ready to swipe their credit card and purchase. And in the 14-day script challenge, you get the opportunity to go through that step by step with our writers who have done it dozens and dozens of times.
You actually watch us go through each of the steps ourselves and create it with a real client, a real product, and it's a real campaign that's out there that's been very successful.
That's right. And the feedback that we've had on this thing has just been phenomenal. I mean, we get comment after comment and emails flowing in from people all over the world who have just raved about the impact that this has had on their business.
People tell us over and over again, it is just a huge value punch for the investment for this 14-day script challenge and really gave them the tool set they needed to walk through it and make it happen.
And we've had dozens of students who have successfully taken the challenge, written their script, launched their ad campaigns, and driven success for their business. It's pretty amazing.
For more information, go to hbros.co/script. That's hbros.co/script.